Good evening, everybody. This is Dr. Demia here, Dr. D. But I'm going with Dr. Demia. I feel like I need to go with my full first name because it is unique and beautiful and different. And I'm not going to abbreviate it anymore. It's Dr. Demia. Hello. Happy Monday, everybody. It has been a little bit since I've been on. I was in a boot and crutches for a while. I'm out of it now. But even though I was in boot and crutches, my mouth still works. So I was on 2 weeks ago, but I was also traveling because I've been pleasantly busy the past couple of weeks. And so I wasn't able to come on last Monday because I was traveling and I had no service I have no service when I'm traveling, especially when I take Amtrak. So I hope everyone is doing well and enjoying summer. I can't believe June is over already. And I hope everyone had a fantastic holiday. But I want to hop on because I know I talked about this part 5 series of how to introduce data to your staff. And we went over the first 3 parts. And today we're going to go over how to chunk the introduction to your staff. Okay. And so welcome. Some of you who don't know me, again, I want to introduce myself, Dr. Demia here, and I'm glad that you're in the room or watching the replay. If you have any questions or thoughts or suggestions, please put it in the comments. I'd love to engage with you as we go along. And I am a product and advocate of public education. I believe we have the power to change the system that continually oppressed the most marginalized students. Like myself, I was one of those marginalized students, right? And so I believe, like Margaret Wheatley said, we have to be brave enough to have the conversation that matters. And I'll add to that and say we have to be courageous enough to create the disruption that's needed to change the current conditions our kids are facing in public schools. And so this goal here of this series is to hopefully have conversations around what's going on, how we can shift things and begin to shift things because it takes time. It's nothing great happens quickly. And so welcome to part 4 of the 5-part series on introducing data and the data cycle to your staff. And today we're going to talk about how to chunk it. And this approach ensures that you don't get overwhelmed or don't overwhelm your staff when you're helping them trying to digest data, right? Because for a lot of people, the first 3 sessions, the first one was about embracing the fear because there's a palpable fear of understanding data and how to use it in your buildings. I know I had it as a school leader. And so embrace that fear, educate yourself was 2, and then planning your approach was 3, which is something that you should be doing now during the summer. And so today we're going to talk about how to chunk the introduction. So let's get into it. So how do you eat an elephant, y'all? How? 1 bite at a time. Okay. Similarly, when you're introducing data to your staff, chunking the introduction into manageable parts that everyone can grasp so that everyone can grasp the concepts and apply them confidently is critical. Right. So here I'm going to talk about 3 essential. Well, that's actually 6 when I put up 2 fingers. So I'm going to put up 1, 3 essential steps to help you break down the process with your staff over some time. So again, over 3 months time, right? So let's take it by the month. Okay. And chime in with any thoughts or suggestions you have. So in the first month, you really should focus your understanding on understanding and interpreting the data, right? The first month is about getting your staff comfortable, feel that comfort with the data, right? So start with understanding your objective with starting to understand and focus on interpreting the data is to help your staff become familiar with the different types of data and how to read and interpret data reports, right? Because that's when people freeze. I know that's when I froze. Looking at the data, it's all overwhelming. It's like, oh my God, what are these numbers? I know it's telling me stuff about my school, but where do I look first? How do I, So introduce the different versions of data reports. And by now, your staff is probably pretty familiar with looking at data reports, but how do they really, and like, how are they really using that, right? So help them become more familiar with the different types of data that they're looking at. Because a lot of times you as a leader will look at the data and then give them what you want to give to your staff instead of giving them the whole thing, right? Because in your mind, I know for me anyway, it was, I don't want to overwhelm them with this report. So let me just extrapolate what I need to share with them and then share it with them. Like I actually design how the data looks so that when I present it to them, they're not like minds blown, right? But in order to really help them, you really need to show them the different types of data and how to read the data reports, okay? So you can have some workshops on how to organize, workshops that help them actually look at the data and manipulate the data. That's all you're doing at the workshop. You're taking time for them just to get familiar with the different data reports. Because a lot of times, especially in public education, especially when we're working with marginalized kids and working in low income communities, Title I schools, we're moving at such a rapid rate. We're like, look at the data and tell me what you see. Okay, but give them time to look at the data with you so that if they have questions, you are there to support their learning, right? Because you are learning in the process as well, right? So make sure that you are organize different sessions with them to actually break down the data reports, the different types of data, right? Like looking at your qualitative data, have the conversation with them. What is qualitative data? How do we capture it, right? What's the best way to do it? I know for me, the easiest way for me to capture qualitative data was doing tallies, right? That's data. How many times you actually engage with a student that you intentionally try to avoid? That's data. How many times you as a leader force yourself to engage with a staff person that you try to intentionally avoid? That's data, right? Qualitative data. And then the quantitative data, those test results. What does that look like? How many exit tickets did you give in a week? How many students completed the exit tickets? Like those qualitative and quantitative pieces need to be listed so that they know and can identify what they are when they see them, right? So just having that awareness is really helpful. So teach them how to read the data reports and interpret them. Help them identify trends. Ask the questions. What are you seeing with this data, right? What patterns do you see evolving with this data? Provide them with some examples from the data that you are actually looking at. So really that first month is you carving time to actually go through the data with them. Okay? Carving time for them to create this safe space where they can actually ask questions about the data and the data reports and what the patterns mean, and being able to share with, because this for you as a leader also tells you which of your staff need more support in understanding the data and which are really like, they pretty much understand how to look at it and how to interpret it. So creating the time and space just to look at it, not doing anything about it right now, just looking at it. That's all you're doing, creating the time and space, right? And so by the end of the first month, your staff should be able to read data, right? Interpret reports, identify trends, right? That can inform their instructional strategies. That's all you're doing in the first month. Creating the time, creating the space. You should be doing this every week with your staff. Creating some, and it could be, because, a lot of times right now, in the climate that we're in public education, is we have a lot of new contracts that are coming out. And I have to tell you, I don't know who's negotiating these contracts, but it doesn't feel like people are really in the business of kids when we're talking about contracts. It sounds like we're in the business of adults than kids. I'm just going to lay it out there. Okay. But what you can do is make these workshops volunteer. Like, if you want to learn more about data, here's a workshop for you after school, 30 minutes. I'm providing time and space every week for you to come with some, and here are the data reports that we're going to look at. You could share it with them right there and say, I'm going to be there for 30 minutes to walk you through how to look at data if you have any questions about it. Make yourself available, because the time that you put on the front end is really going to be beneficial for you and your staff. And you taking this extra step to do something to help them learn more about the data process really tells them that you are really going, like, you really want them. You're invested in their learning and in them, growing as an educator. So think about that. That's the first month, okay? You're taking time, you're slowing down, and you're taking time to actually walk through data with them. You're not planning anything. You're just talking about the data, talking about what's qualitative and quantitative data, okay? Share your thoughts. What are you thinking? What are your ideas? Like, tell me what you're thinking about that, okay? In the comments. And then for month 2, now you're going to dive into the data collection methods, right? So in the second month, the focus is going to shift from equipping your staff with tools and techniques for effective data instruction. So the objective here is to teach practical methods, right, for gathering meaningful data in a real efficient and effective way. So you can have sessions on various data collection methods. So you can cover topics like surveys, observational data, assessments, right? You can demonstrate how to create and implement these data tools, like how you actually create a mid-quarter survey, climate survey, to send out to them, staff, and how you use that qualitative data, right? You can encourage your staff to start small by collecting data from one subject area, right? One subject area or grade. How are they collecting it? Have them have conversations around how they're going to collect it, how they're going to use it. And I'm talking about, this is for staff who really have no idea on how to look at data and use it in a real meaningful way. Okay. So for the second month, you can encourage your staff to start small, again, by collecting data for one subject or one grade level, and have hands-on experiences with them to help them understand, like, what are the nuances in the data collection piece, right? Because this is going to be critical as you move full force into the data cycle. They are definitely going to have to collect the data to bring to the collaborative planning meetings to have discussions and plan around the instructional strategies. So starting small, right? Especially if you feel like if you, and again, this is not just like in teaching students, right? Educating students, this is for you as a leader to decide which teacher or staff people are able to move full throttle and those who need this, right? Because every person may not need this breakdown the way I'm explaining this to you, okay? So you can definitely have those staff who you are noticing are having some challenges and some apprehensions, some fears is surfacing around the use of data. This is a process that you can use with them, right? So have them start with one subject area, right? Make it a real hands-on experience for them so that they can understand the nuances of how you actually collect data. So by the end of the second month, the purpose and goal here is that your staff should be proficient in collecting accurate data and relevant data, right? So you're setting the stage for data-driven instruction, this data-driven, like data-informed cycle that's about to occur full force. Okay, so again, the first month is you are looking at data reports, discussing the types of data, qualitative, quantitative, listing together what those might be, right? The second month is actually looking at how you are actually collecting data. What are the different methods, tests, surveys, journals, all those different ways that you can collect data, right? Any piece of information is data. I want you to know this because a lot of people do not use qualitative data the way it needs to be used. It's such an impactful set of information, that qualitative data, to help you as a leader, that it's overlooked very often. And so my goal is for you to not overlook it anymore, okay? Okay, let's move to month 3. In the third month, you're going to start small with data-driven instruction, like this data-informed instruction piece, right? The third month is about applying the data insights that they've gotten in month 1 and 2, but on a small scale, right? So the objective here is to implement data-informed strategies gradually to avoid overwhelming your staff, right? When I was principal of school in Baltimore, that's exactly what we did. We did it gradually. I provided time and space for them to, be uncomfortable in the process, right? To ask the questions, right? You have to set up your structures so that that can actually happen. What does your collaborative planning look like? If you have 45 minutes, it's really not enough time. Again, here we go with the contracts, but that will probably impact how you can structure your collaborative meetings. But start small and guide your team in applying data to their instructional planning, right? So in month 1, they identified what's quantitative, what's qualitative, looking at reports, right? Getting used to seeing them. In month 2, they're actually, how am I collecting the data now, right? That qualitative and quantitative data. And now in month 2, they're actually looking for patterns in month 1 and 2. And now, because they've been looking for patterns for 2 months, now in month 3, they can make more informed decisions around what instructional steps do I take now based on the data that I've been looking at, right? And so guide the team in applying that data to their planning, right? Choose a subject area, choose a grade level to begin with, develop a plan to incorporate some data insights into lesson planning, right? Like when a teacher is planning something, you're asking the question for them to think about and reflect, like, what data supports the need for this planning in this way, right? What have your students shown you that supports that you need to plan the lesson in this way, that this outcome is what is needed for your students, right? And I'm talking about tier 1, not talking about anything else but tier 1, okay? And then you also monitor the implementation, right? Go back and give them feedback and see and have feedback discussions and look at the results in terms of what they are doing in terms of planning and implementation based on the data that they have received, right? Everything is about asking that question. What is the evidence? What does the data say that supports you or us making this decision, teaching in this way, having this as an outcome, right? What data supports that there's a need for this? What data supports why we're going in this direction? What's the evidence, right? And so this gradual approach allows your staff to see the impact of data-informed instruction, right? Without feeling overwhelmed. And then you have to celebrate the small wins. Don't forget that. Celebrating the small wins is so important. And it's so funny because now, as a seasoned leader, when I first started out, moving from a teacher role into a leadership role, I didn't think celebrating the small wins was important. I thought it was kind of like, well, everybody's getting paid a job, just like to do a job, just like I am. I don't need to celebrate the small wins. Well, why do I need to celebrate the small wins with them? But that was, again, I was young, and time truly is a teacher and I've learned over time that celebrating the small wins is what keeps your staff going. It's what keeps the momentum and makes the work that you're doing sustainable, right? You have to celebrate the small wins. And it's not, don't celebrate something that doesn't need to be celebrated. Like, I'm not saying make anything up. What I'm saying is there's always a reason to celebrate. There's always something that's going well in your school and with your staff that you can celebrate, right? And so, for example, if you have a staff person that you know is absolutely paralyzed by the idea of using data and looking at data, and then they decide to come to an after school session to talk and work through it with you, that's a celebration, right? The fact that a teacher who seemed to be resistant comes to you now to talk about data and wants to know more, is even asking questions, that's a celebration, right? So those small wins are so important. A teacher actually using data and showing you that he or she has used the data to plan their lesson when they didn't do it before is a small win, right? So celebrate those as much as possible. And then learn from any challenges that arise, right? So you're creating an environment where mistakes are opportunities to learn. I truly believe that. So share your thoughts. Hit me up with some comments. What questions or thoughts do you have, or even some experiences that you may have that you can share your wisdom to impart on us. So those are the three things for part 4, right? Part 4 being uh, chunking the introduction of data to your staff. So month 1, identify qualitative and quantitative data, look at reports, look at patterns. Month 2, like how do you gather meaningful data? And we know what meaningful data we're talking about because in month 1, it's qualitative and quantitative. How do you gather that? Looking for patterns again in month 2. And in month 3, you start small with data-driven, data-informed instruction, right? They start planning. Staff start planning their lessons based on the data that they've been looking at for the past 2 months. Okay, that's a really small, like that is absolutely possible when you break it down in this way. Now, the time that you have right now in the summer to do this is really important for you to plan what this looks like. And if you need help with that, please hit me in the DMs. I would love to have a conversation with you to just get in your head and see like what are your thoughts and some of your goals and aspirations in terms of introducing and becoming a more data informed leader and school, right? And how to lead your team in this way. So summertime is the best time to do this. You can reach me at contact@driven, DRIVYNLLC.com, or you can just hit me in the DMs here on LinkedIn or on Instagram. And I will get back in contact with you. I'll send you a link for us to connect. Okay. So chunking the data into these manageable pieces is a really great way for you to become more more data savvy in your school and have your staff become more data savvy as well. So it feels a little weird. I'm not home. I don't have my microphone. I'm in actually Tennessee for the SREB conference where I'll be presenting Tier 1 data, an all-encompassing tool for excellence. I'm excited about that this Wednesday. So if you're in Tennessee, come on to my session. It's at 2:45 on the 10th. So I hope to see you there. And yeah, so let's make sure you're using the summertime as a time for strategic planning and preparation so that you can set your staff up and you for success for a great school year. Okay. And there's I forgot to mention, I have a 6-week program, Authentic Leader Unlocked. If you want more information, the program is really it's really coaching. It's one-on-one coaching. And I have suggested topics to talk about, but this program really is geared toward how you can incorporate your qualitative data and doing what a lot of school leaders do not do, which is pause, so that you can see the picture and really get on the balcony. A lot of times we don't take time to get on the balcony like we should to see the whole view. So reach out to me. I have some great opportunities and things that I can share with you to work over the summer and into the school year. So I hope this was helpful. I know I'm talking pretty fast. It just feels weird to be not in my space and being in a hotel room right now. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing well and I hope you enjoyed it. And please leave your comments, thoughts, and suggestions and some experiences in the comments below if you're watching the replay. All righty. It is 8:55 here. I don't know where you are, but it is time to take it down. Have a fantastic evening. See you next week. I'll see you next week.